we are dedicating a large part of our coverage on the 75th Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav to just inspire you both about our past and our future. We've taken the journey through Lothal, where my colleague Sujata is there, down to Rakhigadi in Haryana, where Gauri Kondalia is there. Now let's head across to the north of Delhi, near Hastinapur in Uttar Pradesh. Siddharth, my colleague, is standing by in Sinhauli. Ladies and gentlemen, about 5-6 years ago, they discovered a weapons hoard and the first chariot, 5,000-year-old chariot, okay, near Hastinapur. Now, we've read the Mahabharats, we've read about the fabled chariots. Could there be archaeological significance for the first time? This is what Sinhauli is about. Then let's go across to Siddharth.
Located 90 kilometers to the west of Hastinapur in Uttar Pradesh. Excavations conducted here in 2018 led to the discovery of India's first historic chariots. 2018 excavations also led to the discovery of a woman warrior from 4,000 years ago. Investigations are currently underway to determine if this is the first archaeological proof of the fabled Mahabharata. We now bring you this exclusive and special report from Sinhauli, which hints at an existence of a Vedic civilization.
Okay, Siddharth has gone there. He's got the Indian flag with him. Sid, tell us about this. I've tried to put the geographical context. So we are talking about this. This is not even 90 minutes. It is near Meerut. Okay, not a long way off. What is this place, Siddharth? How is this one of the cradles of ancient India?
Well, I feel immense pride and excitement to tell you that on this Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav and the 75th Independence Day, I am here in Sinhauli village in western Uttar Pradesh. To give you an idea of where Sinhauli village is, to my east is Hastinapur, which is the capital of Mahabharata. To my west, beyond the Yamuna, it's Kurukshetra. There's also Panipat over here, where the 3 iconic battles were fought. And it's also one of the paths of the Mahabharata. To give you an historic idea of where Sinhauli is, it's located at the heart of the Uttar Path, the trade route, and it goes eastwards, right towards the Saraswati. To show you what this village looks like, it's green fields, open fields. There's a lot of greenery, villagers who work on these farms. And one such villager, a few such villagers in 2018, where this is that exact farm where they found those copper utensils, and which led to 2 years of ASI
right. So literally,
digs, and then
literally you're standing on the soil that gave us the first archaeological evidence of what could be linked. And I'm putting the could be because it's difficult finding archaeological linkages to what are our epics, the Mahabharata and the Ramayana. We've had the conversation about the Ram Setu in the south of India towards Lanka. Now, Sid, you said this is the actual farmyard which you're standing in which the Rath was discovered. Can you just show us around? Pan the camera around, just show us around a little bit more.
Well, yes, we've just come into the Sinhauli village, and this is that site. There are a couple of farms where the ASI conducted excavations for 2 years since 2018. I'll just show you this farm. It's about 3 biga. Obviously, the trenches are filled right now, but there were about 7 to 8.
So the trenches, these were where they dug the trenches in which they've now filled up, and of course, literally sugarcane is growing on top of the remains there. Absolutely fascinating. So what was found? I've been talking about the Rath. What was found there, Sid?
Well, I'll just show you about where the first excavations were conducted. I'm standing on the field, obviously. In 2005 is when these excavations were conducted. I'll just show you the field. I'll ask my video journalist to show you the field. This is the field where, as I told you, 7 pits were found. There were around 10 burials. But I'll explain to you the significance of these burials. As you can see, now the trenches are filled, but they have different kinds of burials in it. 3 were decorated. There were legs on those particular coffins. There were 5 that were little less decorated. They also had a coffin that was in there and a few regular ones. What was significant about the ones that were decorated, and the three that I spoke about first, is that they had 6 legs that showed that there was a kind of a ceremony that was conducted when those were being buried about 4,000 years ago from now. So this is around 2000 BCE, and which showed that there was some kind of royal people who lived here back then, because they had a copper coating on the particular burial, and the ASI guys clearly found and could make a difference between the three kinds of coffins.
You were telling me that, a lot of what was found there has now been shifted to Delhi. I'm hoping the ASI is putting that up on public exhibition. But the one thing which is the iconic photo we've been showing, we'll put that again on our screens, is that chariot. Tell us a bit about this. About 4,000 years old? 5,000 years old?
Well, yes, I'll come to that. I'll straight away take you to the mega 2018 discovery, the chariots that were found, and I'll just show you the place. Although, well, yes, the trenches are being filled right now, but this is that exact pit where those chariots were found. I'll just take you to what was found over here. There were 3 chariots. On the chariot, there were copper wheels, well decorated, properly designed, shows you the craftsmanship of the people that lived then. There was a whip that was found, shows you that they were obviously tied to horses. There were swords, there was a shield, and all these findings that were found right here in this pit, and carbon dating conducted on them that proved that they were around 4,000 years ago, shows that there was some kind of warrior tribe that lived over here, people who fought wars, very different from the findings if you go westwards towards Kurukshetra and all the other Harappa findings. This was very different because this proved that these people fought wars, and that is what drew the eyes of historians around India, and that's what makes Sinhauli such a special place.
Okay, what a fascinating place to be, Sid. And of course, it's been a pleasure, literally at the site of where, a royal burial, it's pretty safe to say, was found. The excavation started in 2005. In 2018 was when this discovery on your screen. So you can see the sarcophagi, of at least 6 royal burials, well adorned with copper implements, instruments, well dressed. You can see the skeletons that were recovered as well. And they were obviously buried with a chariot which was recovered in its full structure along with the leather reins with which the horses were attached. Abhijit Chavda, I mean, we have never been able to figure out, pinpoint, this beyond the, fable and epic of the Mahabharata, an actual site which we can say and then say this was the spot where something happened. Here we are. I mean, this is the best example we have in Sinhauli.
It's a very interesting example. The first ever evidence of chariots in India. And because people have been saying that the chariots were brought in by the Aryans across the mountains and all that. Before that, there were no chariots in India. So this conclusively disproves that. We had chariots 4,000 years ago in India, and very reasonably sophisticated chariots. It's also interesting to note that there were burials in India, in the heartland of India, because as we know, typically our ancestors and our people, they cremate the dead. But we also have burials. We have also found lots of burials in the Saraswati Sindhu region. So that is interesting. And when we talk about the Mahabharat connection, there is not a conclusive Mahabharat connection, because what is known is that there is ancient lore, there are ancient legends that this is the region where Lord Krishna had negotiated for giving away some villages to the Kauravas in order to stave off the war, because they were demanding things, but it is not yet conclusively proven. If you want conclusive proof of the Mahabharata, you have to go to Dwarka.
Because it is reasonable to say that the scale of the burials, they seem to indicate royal burials. The way the sarcophagi have been built, the jewelry that has been found with them, the copper implements, the swords, somebody being buried with swords in a chariot is certainly a figure of certain importance.
Yes, indeed. There were warriors and there were probably royalty. There is no doubt about that. But that does not conclusively prove a Mahabharat connection. If we want a genuine Mahabharat connection, all we have to do is go to Dwarka, which is again a Saraswati Sindhu Harappan era site, which is known to be submerged off the coast of modern Dwarka. So that is a conclusive evidence that Mahabharat happened. The Sinhauli site is a tentatively identified Mahabharat site. We still have to do more research. There could be much more under the soil over there. We've just found one small place. There could be much more.
I mean, there is so much more.
It's a work in progress.
It's a small place within I mean, I've never seen it on television. I've seen the photographs, of course, but Siddharth is saying it's literally in the middle of a sugarcane field, which is currently planted with sugarcane in the middle of monsoon. Let me get Rituraj in. Rituraj, this is that time where we need to still figure out, the transition from the Indus-Saraswati civilization to the time of, the Vedic civilization, whether that transition happened organically over a period of time or suddenly, history is divided on this, because we are told no, that the Harappans were destroyed by these invaders. Maybe it was far slower than that. We don't know. But this is a crucial time, and Sinhauli represents a deep understanding to this gap in our historical knowledge.
Absolutely. I think, as and when more of such sites are discovered, it will really be an eye-opener for historians, archaeologists everywhere. Because absolutely, there have been contradictory, statements from archaeologists. Some people consider the Indus Valley, people to be a distinct species from the Vedic people, and the others think, they actually have a lot in common. So, with the emergence of sites such as Sinhauli, even Kalibanga, where we are currently working at, we have evidence, we have fire altars that have been discovered, ghats where people used to bathe, which are characteristic hallmarks of Vedic people. And this is actually an Indus Valley site. So this again puts us all in a tight spot. What do we make of this? There certainly is a lot of overlap between the Indus Valley people and the Vedic people. What archaeology thinks of it, what history thinks of it will be more clear.
But look at this photograph. It is the wheels of a chariot with the leather rein that was used to tie the horses. You can see the helmets. You can see the swords. The very well decorated combs next to the sarcophagi. I mean, literally, it's a round wheel with spokes. It's unbelievable. Rituraj.
Absolutely. It's really unbelievable. And, I often like saying there are multiple histories. We often say the history of Sinhauli. It actually should be histories of Sinhauli. There are multiple histories, too often as historians, as archaeologists, we are hell-bent upon, phrasing a particular history. But there are actually several versions of histories. So we should be looking at local legends, the Mahabharata, the stories from the Mahabharata, the Ramayana. They've always been called itihasas by our ancestors. They were never referred to as, myths or mythologies. So there are very interesting legends. I think history is a multi-pronged concept.
Okay.
There are layers and layers of
I'm just going to interject for just a quick second, because I have with us on the broadcast also Amit Rai Jain is with us now. Amit Rai Jain was part of the original dig team in 2005 and in 2018 when they found the chariot. Mr. Jain Saab, thank you very much for joining us. आपका experience, ये आपके लिए बहुत प्रोफेशनली और दिल से आपके बड़ा क्लोज सब्जेक्ट है. व्हाट हैज़ बीन योर एक्सपीरियंस रिगार्डिंग सिनौली कि जो सिनौली की फाइंडिंग्स हैं, इनको हम आगे देश को कैसे बेहतर प्रेजेंट करें?
देखिए, सिनौली पूरे विश्व के सामने हिंदुस्तान के कल्चर को, हिंदुस्तान की हिस्ट्री को पुरातत्व की दृष्टि से देखने का एक ऐसा स्थान है कि जिसने पूरे विश्व को भारत के पुरातत्व की तरफ मोड़ा है. सन 2005 में जब यहाँ एक्सीडेंटल डिस्कवरी हुई, जब यहाँ के जिस खेत से 2005 में एक्सकेवेशन हुआ है, उस खेत से कुछ रिमेन्स मिले, कुछ पोट्री के चर्ड मिले, कुछ ऐसी चीज़ें मिली कि जब लोगों को आश्चर्य हुआ. उस समय यहाँ के उपजिलाधिकारी मानवेंद्र सिंह ने मुझे भी इनवाइट किया कि आप एज ए हिस्टोरियन इस जगह को देखिए. तो उस समय देखने पे पहली निगाह में हम लोगों को लगा कि बहुत महत्वपूर्ण होना चाहिए कि छोटी सी जगह में बहुत सारे पोर्ट मिल रहे हैं, बहुत सारे ग्रेवयार्ड जैसी चीज़ें मिल रही हैं जो हम लोग हिस्ट्री में पढ़ा करते थे. तो प्रोफेसर दिलीप चक्रवर्ती लंदन से आए हुए थे, उनको हम लोगों ने इनवाइट किया. प्रोफेसर चक्रवर्ती ने जो यहाँ देख करके बात कही, उनको लगा कि ये यहाँ के जो रिमेन्स मिल रहे हैं, जो चीज़ें मिल रही हैं, वो हड़प्पन कल्चर की हैं. तो उनके और हम लोगों के संयुक्त प्रयास से आर्कियोलॉजिकल सर्वे ऑफ इंडिया ने यहाँ का एक्सकेवेशन किया. यहाँ के एक्सकेवेशन जो फर्स्ट एक्सकेवेशन था, उसमें जो चीज़ें मिली वो अपने आप में स्पेसिफिक इसलिए थी कि छोटे से एरिया में लगभग 125 मानव कंकाल यहाँ पे ग्रेव्स मिली, जिन ग्रेव्स के अंदर कॉपर होड़ की चीज़ें थी, यानी कि तलवारें थी, एंटीना सोर्ड्स थी, कुछ खंजर थे, और ख़ास बात ये थी कि हड़प्पन बीड्स के साथ कुछ और लेटर पीरियड के भी और उससे पहले पीरियड के भी बीड्स थे. बहुत सारी ऐसी चीज़ें मिली जो कि इस बात को
No, just Amit ji, just hold your thought. Dr. Jain, just hold your thought just on that note. Just hold your thought there, and this is exactly the point. Abhijit, so what he is telling us that they found beads belonging to the Harappan or even earlier periods. So now you're drawing that there is obvious archaeological linkage in a site which is a transition site from this Vedic civilization part and the Harappan civilization part, which for many hundreds of years we've never been able to figure out.
Indeed, and the more we discover these archaeological sites, the more connections will emerge. It is all interconnected, temporally and geographically, spatially. That's how it has always been. So the Ganga-Yamuna region has historically been viewed by historians and archaeologists as a separate cultural zones of sort as compared to the Saraswati Sindhu, Sapta Sindhu region. But now we are discovering these linkages that it was all interconnected. And once we do the genetic analysis, it will more data will come out, because I am certain that you will find the same genetics everywhere as well.
Okay,
so
because the theory, the Aryan invasion theory, Abhijit, you've spoken about so much about this, okay, even in your podcasts and shows, and we've discussed it so often. This Aryan invasion theory, which we all learnt in school, was there was a Harappan civilization, okay, and that civilization vanished because there was invaders who came, who were the Aryans, who came and invaded and destroyed them, and the original Indians are only left in the south, and then that it plays in modern day politics, Dravidian politics, even till this day, this confusion that has been created by the Aryan invasion theory. Now, what are sites then like Sinhauli, which are that transition period sites? What are they telling us, Abhijit?
They are telling us that it is all the same civilization, the same geographical region, and the same people. And we need to start looking further deep in the south as well, because we are now looking at Kiladi, etc. But I am sure there will be much older sites. Because if you talk about the Sangam eras of Tamil civilization, which is part of Indian civilization, it goes back nearly 10,000 years. There were 3 Sangam eras. And obviously, all of this is not just myths. It actually must have happened. We still have these oral memories. So we need to go and dig. There are so many archaeological sites that are waiting to be opened up in the southern parts of India.
But by the time that, this, Rituraj, there's a beautiful photograph here of one of the artifacts from Sinhauli, okay, again, maybe 4,000 years old. There's a peacock crown comb and there is a copper helmet. I mean, it's unbelievable. So there is, we are talking about copper bronze age, okay. So 4,000-5,000 years ago, before we head into an iron age civilizations, there is a distinction obvious here from Harappa, but there is a continuation obvious also.
Right. And, even from an art, history obviously has lots of puzzles, that keep us all puzzled. But then even from an artistic point of view, when you look at that picture, it's ancient art and it's absolutely breathtaking. The intricacies with which the artists created, those pieces of art, they literally, speak out from the dust as we, dig through these artifacts and discover more and more of them. So, it's absolutely true, sites such as these, which form a transition, they are actually the missing pieces in the link, that we need to be looking out for. And they actually hold a lot of, mysteries and, facts. It's an interesting eclectic mix that we should be sieving out, mix of legends and local folklore. So as much as digging, a space is important, I think it's also important to dig up our minds as well. So, asking up, your grandparents, their parents, listening to community memories, what we call ethno-archaeology.
So you're talking about the folklore, which is indicative of historical stories that are passed on by word of mouth, but to actually look at something and say this was found, know where it was found, the geography in it was found, the how old it is, Okay, so let me just draw this back together with Dr. Jain once again. Dr. Jain, we've been having this conversation about this distinctive period. So what you are finding in Sinhauli, in both the kinds of artifacts, there is a distinction here. There has been a civilizational progress that has happened into this sort of copper age, where the copper weapons and shields and helmets have been found, the chariots have been found. So this is different from Indus, Saraswati, but also interconnected. How do you view the differences?
देखिए, सिनोली और हरप्पा मोहनजोदड़ो में जो एक डिफरेंस है, वो ये बड़ा डिफरेंस है कि वहाँ से कॉपर होड़ की चीज़ें बहुत कम मिली हैं। कॉपर होड़ कल्चर यहाँ पे, ये बात जो एक डार्क फेज जैसा है ना, लगभग इंडियन हिस्ट्री में 800 से 1000 साल का जो पीरियड है, वो ऐसा पीरियड है कि जिसको कि इतिहासकारों ने, पुरातत्ववेत्ताओं ने अंधकार युग की संज्ञा दी। सिनोली उस अंधकार युग को फिलअप करने का काम करता है। यहाँ से ग्रेवयार्ड मिल रहा है, ग्रेव्स मिल रही हैं। एक ग्रेव जो 2018-19 में जो एक्सकेवेशन, 2 एक्सकेवेशन हुए, उसमें जो ग्रेव्स मिली हैं, उसमें एक लेडी का मानव कंकाल मिला। उस लेडी को हम कहेंगे कि वो वॉरियर लेडी है, यानी कि वो लड़ाका है और वो कहीं ना कहीं युद्ध में या अपने जो उस एरिया के लोग थे उनकी रक्षा में वो जरूर सम्मिलित रही है, क्योंकि उसकी तलवार मिली है, उसके साइड में उसका खंजर मिला है, वहीं पे उसका धनुष भी रखा हुआ मिला है। हालांकि वो फ्रजाइल हो गया लेकिन उसके रिमेन्स हैं। उसके साथ उसका वैनिटी बॉक्स मिला है, यानी कि उसके श्रृंगार का सामान है। उसके गले में जो वो हार पहनती थी उसके बीड्स मिले हैं, और उसको बहुत ही पारंपरिक, बहुत अच्छे तरीके से 4 पाँव के कॉफिन के अंदर दफनाया गया। उस कॉफिन पे भी फ्लोरिकल्चर, उसके ऊपर भी फॉइलिंग की गई है कॉपर की, और बहुत सुंदर तरीके से। इसका मतलब इस बात का दावा किया जा सकता है कि जो भारत के पुराणों में लेडीज के बारे में वर्णन मिलता है कि वो युद्ध लड़ा करती थी, अपनी रक्षा भी करती थी, अपने परिवार की, अपने समाज की रक्षा करती थी, तो ये इस वजह से भी अलग डिफरेंशिएशन सिनोली सभ्यता का अन्य सभ्यताओं से है कि यहाँ पर
just hold your thought on that, Dr. Jain. Just hold your thought. Let me get Abhijit on that thought. Abhijit, you know, I mean, absolutely fascinating. You know, the warrior woman of Sinhauli, where she's got her vanity box and she's got her necklaces, but she's also got the dhanush and the sword which have been buried alongside her, and with equal importance that was given to the other, you know, warrior royal burials that have happened there. And interesting point that Dr. Jain is making there, that this is the, now when you start seeing the copper parts, which is what we were just discussing, and there's a distinction, there's a progress, but there is a linkage at the same time.
Yes, it's a kind of contradictory burial. You have the shringar items, you have the necklace, you have all the ornamentation, and you have the hard stuff. You've got a sword, you've got a dagger, and you've got a dhanush ban. So that is the kind of life some of these ladies would live. We've always known that in the past we had ladies who were queens. We had someone like Kaikai, who is not exactly a very nice character, but she was a warrior lady. She fought on behalf of her husband when her husband was injured, and we have so many other examples. So we find this, and the evidence of copper is also very interesting. I'm not sure if we have found copper this far north in India. So yes, we are now slowly able to start putting up the various pieces of the jigsaw puzzle, and we will soon be able to form a better image of what the past 4,000-5,000 years
because this is exactly what Dr. Jain is referring to, Rituraj. This period which we don't really understand, the transition which I keep pointing out to, he is saying that Sinhauli is core to this discovery.
It is. In fact, you know, the kind of artifacts that are being discovered, you know, the warriors, the warrior burials, the women warriors, you know, these are definitely exciting breakthroughs in Indian archaeology. These are some things that are, these are things that are completely unheard of. And it's just one site, you know, Sinhauli. It's now being considered one of the largest.
Okay. Yeah, but Rituraj, you know, the assumption that we are drawing in the Aryan invasion theory is that these pack of hordes on horse warriors, they've come in, okay? But what we're learning from here is that they were buried in sarcophagi, which means that stone masonry was very advanced. Not only beads, they had copper swords and shields, which mean that their metallurgical skills were very advanced, which means that they were forges, people were mining the copper, they were forging the copper, there was excellent metallurgical skills, okay, which means there had to be some settlement in which you could set up the forge, and somebody had to permanently set up a copper mine, you know, not everything could be traded. It is also indicative that not only the horses, but they had the ability not just to ride them bareback, but also the ability to put reins on them, perhaps even saddles, and for sure chariots. So we are looking at an advanced culture here, not just a bunch of hordes rampaging through one side to the other side.
Right, we're actually looking at what we call an entire industry here. So, there are multiple examples of actual metallurgical prowess here. So, as you said, a metallurgical establishment needs a lot of resources. So to actually forge, all of those metals, they would have needed water and pretty advanced ways of, navigating those waters, carrying the wastewaters away. We actually see wastewater management structures at Lothal, which we saw in a previous segment.
Yes.
But, here in Sinhauli as well, we ought to have had a very advanced water management system, a very advanced drainage system that could have catered to, an industry as advanced as a metallurgical industry, because it was actually making weapons and actually making artifacts with copper, with all of those metals, with that ornamentation, the level of ornamentation that we are seeing, it indicates a very advanced
I just can't get,
stage of
if I couldn't get
prowess.
past the photographs of Lothal where a straight line drain, straight line load. I mean, looks like it was made, I promise you, my colony today, probably the drainage system is not that perfectly aligned as it was there. To what these photographs in Sinhauli are, look at that, look at the comb, look at the copper helmet, look at the wheel of that chariot. I mean, it's...
things as simple as bricks, the bricks that have been discovered in IVC sites, they've always been a talking point. They've been radial at some places, the way they've been custom designed, in the drains, they've fit together in such... I've actually heard from fellow archaeologists that, when you actually see a drain close enough, you'll see that the bricks, the masonry is so perfect that they're actually watertight.
Yeah,
so no water could
that
have
doesn't
actually
chip away the
leaked out.
mortar, which is why
Correct.
they've survived here. They are open to the elements.
Right,
India is the land of the monsoons, and here we are, 5,000-6,000 years later. Okay, let me get Dr. Jain back in. Dr. Jain, we've been we are understanding. We're not naive, and we're not trying to be jingoistic here. That, finding a correlation to an epic story of the Mahabharata from a single site in which dating can be done, but there's no written material that's been found from there that can confirm the correlation. Not easy. But from your studies there, both during the excavation in 2005 and now more recently in 2018 when the chariot was found, what is the angularity towards the epic fables of the storytelling of the Mahabharata versus what has been found?
मैं तो इस बात को करीब 15 सालों से लगातार कह रहा हूँ कि अगर हम लोग भारत के इतिहास को कपोल कल्पना मानेंगे तो हम इस दिशा में आगे नहीं बढ़ सकते। हमें इंडियन हिस्ट्री, उसके ओरिजिनल टेक्स्ट को भी देखना होगा, समझना होगा, उसका अच्छा अध्ययन करें, क्योंकि एज ए हिस्टोरियन, एज ए पुरातत्ववेत्ता, अगर हम, क्योंकि समस्या है कि कोई लोग केवल खोदना जानते हैं एएसआई के अंदर, कुछ लोग केवल लिखना जानते हैं और वो मरने के बाद भी लिखते रहते हैं, उनके बच्चे उनकी किताबों को बेचते रहते हैं। लेकिन यहाँ वो समस्या हल तब हो कि जब कुछ लोगों का समूह ऐसा बने कि जो इंडियन हिस्ट्री को, ओरिजिनल टेक्स्ट को पढ़े, उसके आधार पे काम करे। महाभारत में स्पष्ट लिखा है इन रथों के और महारथियों के बारे में, और ये जो यहाँ पे कॉपर होड़ के वेपन्स मिल रहे हैं, इनके बारे में लिखा है कि श्री कृष्ण ने एक बड़ी तपस्या करी जब वो पांडवों के साथ उनका साथ देने के लिए गए। उस तपस्या को करने के बाद उनके अंदर एक ऐसा बल पैदा हुआ कि उन्होंने पहाड़ों को चूरा कर दिया और एक लाल रंग की धातु उत्पन्न करी। तो वो बात हो सकता है कि कुछ उन्होंने अत्यधिक कही हो लिखने वाले ने, रचनाकार ने, लेकिन जो लाल रंग की धातु है वो कॉपर है। और ताम्रयुगीन सभ्यता हिंदुस्तान के, यानी कि ब्रॉन्ज एज कल्चर पूरे वर्ल्ड के अंदर इंडिया का सबसे स्पेसिफिक है, जो यमुना और गंगा के कांठे यानी कि उनके बीच के दोआब में मिलता है। कानपुर तक मिलता है, लखनऊ तक मिलता है, फैजाबाद तक मिलता है, बरेली, अही छतरा, इस साइड से लगा करके। और इस हिस्से में सबसे अच्छा जो कॉपर होड़ मिल रहा है, कॉपर होड़ कल्चर के रिमेन्स मिल रहे हैं, वेपन्स मिल रहे हैं, एंटीना सोर्ड्स मिल रही है, उसकी चीज़ें मिल रही हैं। तो इस बात को ये बताता है। और महाभारत की जो बात है, अगर हम उस एंगल से सोचते हैं, समझते हैं, तो ये बात, क्योंकि पहले हमें पढ़ना पड़ेगा महाभारत को, क्योंकि ज्योग्राफिकली सीक्वेंस तो इसकी इसलिए है कि कुरु जनपद, जिसकी सारी की सारी सीमाओं का पता है, यानी कि सोनीपत, पानीपत, करनाल, कुरुक्षेत्र तक हरियाणा के उस पार, और गंगा के किनारे हस्तिनापुर और इंद्रप्रस्था दिल्ली, और ये बड़ौद, बागपत, खेकड़ा, शामली, ये सारा का सारा एरिया कुरु जनपद का हिस्सा है। और जो श्री कृष्ण ने संधि में 5 गांव दुर्योधन से मांगे थे, उसके अंदर एक बागपत को मांगा गया था व्याघ्रप्रस्थ के नाम पे, सोनीपत को स्वर्णप्रस्थ के नाम पे, पर्णप्रस्थ पानीपत था, वारणाव्रत बरनावा था। इन 4 छोटे छोटे गांवों के बिल्कुल बीच में यमुना नदी के किनारे पे सिनोली है, क्योंकि सिनोली के एक्सकेवेशन में यहाँ से बिच्छू कंकड़ जैसी चीजें मिली हैं, यानी कि इस बात का भी ये प्रमाण मिला है कि कभी
Dr. Jain, just let me take a quick thought with Abhijit on this. Abhijit, so what he is saying is, which makes perfect sense. You need the people who can understand the original texts and put them in a room with the archaeologists who are doing the digging, in a room with the technicians who can analyze the satellite imagery and do the topography, and everybody needs to come together, to actually crack this over a period of time. It can't be everybody working in their own silos. The linguists only working on the language of Sanskrit, the historians only working on the books, and the archaeologists working separately.
I completely agree with Dr. Jain. This is a multidisciplinary approach that we have to have. Everybody needs to work together, because unless we understand what the Mahabharata texts are saying properly from the actual sources, from people who actually can read and understand Sanskrit, we will not understand how to interpret what we are finding in the archaeological field, and so on and so forth. So I completely agree. We cannot dismiss our ancient texts as myths. These are itihasa, which means they really happened. And we are finding facts on the ground that corroborate.
Okay. So the topography, Rituraj, the topography of Sonipat, Panipat, Kurukshetra, Indraprasth near Delhi, Hastinapur, where about 80 kilometers away. So this is right in the middle of all of this site. So this topography, which we take in modern day context for granted, but historically we are not sure of, now seems to indicate that yes, for sure at least there were advanced Copper Bronze Age civilizations 4,000 years ago in this region.
And it makes a lot of sense. This is a very geopolitically active region. It has been since for millennia. Indraprasth has always been a center of, the power control, line passes through Indraprasth. Even today, Delhi is the national capital. So it has been so for millennia, and this entire region, Sonipat, Bagpat, Sinhauli, it actually places itself in that right political context as well, if you look at it. In fact, all
compelling.
through our travels, when we travel, I've traveled extensively across the country, and everywhere I go, there are always linkages to our stories, our Ramayana and Mahabharata. There's a temple, people would say.
Well, you can
Ramji
find the linkages in Thailand and Cambodia, Laos and beyond. So we'll have to travel a whole lot more, my friend, to actually discover where all the fables went.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.